Welcome back to Chapter 7. Winter has arrived. Later in the day, a big truck drives into the yard and backs up towards the cow barn. I go outside with Dad as he walks to the barn. By the time we get there, the stranger has the back of the truck opened and a ramp was pulled out for somebody to walk up on. I climb up on the ramp and start smelling around and go into the truck and come back out. It just smells like different cow smells. Nothing exciting here, but what is exciting, Dad is in the pasture putting a rope around Cow's neck. She's being led out of the gate and little Cow is being locked alone in the pasture. The stranger led Cow up the ramp and closed the door. I had been sitting to the side in the snow watching the stranger and Dad. Seeing Cow go up into the truck made me stand up and start to walk closer. "What are you doing?" "She belongs here." "Dad, you have to stop him and get Cow back out. Why aren't you getting excited? Do something, Dad. Help her." I didn't understand. Little Cow didn't understand, and Cow sure didn't understand. They were all mooing and making a fuss, and I started to run around barking too. "Quiet, Molly," Dad commanded me. I found a spot out of the way and sat back down in the cold snow to watch. The stranger handed Dad a piece of paper and pushed the ramp into the bottom of the truck and drove away, taking Cow with him. I looked at Dad. That was my Cow and little Cow's mother. Why did he let her go away? I didn't understand. My heart was sad. I didn't really like her. I know she is rude because of her burping all the time. Why, she even taught little Cow how to do that. But she was my Cow, with her big knees and floppy ears. I sat and looked at him and little Cow. She was running alongside the fence, mooing so sadly. I could hear Cow moo back when she was at the end of the driveway, and then I could hear her for a short distance as the truck drove away on the big road. I looked at Dad, and he looked really sad. I don't understand why he let the Cow leave us, but I did understand he was sad too. Cow had left her family, and I don't know where she is now. We went back inside and stayed where it was warm. The snow continued to fall for several days and was very deep where it piled up when the wind blew it around. We all had to go out and clean the snow out of the driveway after it stopped falling, and the path we walked on needed to be cleared to do our various chores. I wonder if someone will use the stick with a flat thing on the end to push the snow out of my walkway. That would be nice. It is kind of deep, and I have to jump high not to get stuck in it. We have a lot of snow, and Joe is using his orange round sled he sits on to ride down the hill by the house while Mom and Dad move the snow around. It sure looks like fun, and I sure wish he would call me to come sit with him. I try to run alongside him and bark while he flies past on his orange sled, but I can't do more than jump and bounce. He is going so fast, and the snow is so deep where he is playing, so it is easier to run around the edge of the yard because the brush there holds the snow from falling onto the ground, so it's like a lot of little roofs. You have to be careful not to bump into them, though, because then you get a bag full of snow, and when it goes in your ears, it is really cold and stops being fun. After all the snow work is done, we go inside to warm up, and now we are getting to the best thing about winter. I love the warmth of the house after being outside in the cold. We snuggle with soft things to sit on or lay on and cover up to take a nap. I have a soft blanket on my big pillow, too. I dig it around and make a soft, warm nest, and I have the best naps right there. I curl up in a ball and lay my head on the rim of the nest blanket and watch my family until I get sleepy and rest too. It gets dark a lot sooner in the afternoon, too. Sometimes my family and I go outside to play in the snow when it is dark out. That is so much fun. If the big light in the sky is shining at night when we play in the snow, it is light enough to see. You can see other animals better that like to be out at night, too. Sometimes my family invites Joe's friends from the next farms over, and we all sled downhill in the nightlight. If it is really cold, Dad builds a fire in the middle of the cow pasture where we sled to warm up so no one has to miss fun and go to the house to get warm. There is usually a lot of shouting and laughter, and everyone shares sleds. I spend a lot of time barking and running up and down the hill, chasing everyone as they slide down to the bottom by the brush. Sometimes they even crash into the brush, extending the ice trail further because they're going so fast they can't stop. We have been getting a lot of snow more often. Little Cow spends most of her days in the barn by the cats with the door closed, so she stays pretty warm in there. The chickens have a heater in their coop to help fight the cold, and I stay in the house most of the time unless someone goes out. Then I go with them. Dad was bringing in firewood from the pile furthest from the house one evening. It was the time of the day I loved the best in the winter. The sun is down, it is dark with the stars shining, and the house was all lit up with the lights. Dad was going in and out with armfuls of wood while Mom was opening and shutting the door for him on each trip. Joe was playing in the snow nearby while I was snooping around the bottom of the wood pile. It happened so fast. I'm not sure now what happened. I was slowly coming around the wood pile. I couldn't smell anything, and because of the snow, I couldn't hear anything either. As I came around the woodpile, there stood the biggest cat I had ever seen. It was taller than me and was standing on a piece of wood tipped against the woodpile. It looked at me just as I saw it. It had a really short tail, and the ears on its head stood up in the air. I'm pretty sure my mouth dropped open in surprise, and I paused just a second. The cat suddenly snarled and jumped to the ground, turning to run away from me. I charged after it, and together we raced into the brush. The soft snow was flying off to the sides as we raced under all the little branches from the brush. It was easier for me to run following this giant cat because it was making the trail, so I was gaining on it. I'm not sure what I was going to do if I caught up to it, though. Far behind me, I could hear Dad, Mom, and Joe calling me. I knew I should go back, but this was such great fun plowing through the snow in the dark after a huge cat. I had to see if I was going to be able to catch it or to get stuck in the snow chasing it. I just had to catch it. Wait until I tell the poodle on the next farm about this cat. I doubt it will believe me. The cat and I got almost to a big tree, and it jumped onto the side of the tree and started to climb it. I wish I knew how to climb a tree. I really need to learn how to do that this summer. I was close enough to the cat I could see it jump onto the tree and then start to climb it. But I was also too close to be able to stop or even swerve before the tree and I collided. I hit that tree hard enough to fall backwards, and I sat for a second in the snow at the bottom of the tree and looked up at the cat, now sitting on a tree branch far above me, looking down at me. I thought to myself, why do I always collide with things? Dad's legs when we're chasing the coyotes, brush in the fields, and now this tree with a cat in it. I really need to figure out how to make my legs put the brakes on faster before another collision happens. I stood looking around and thought, how can I get this thing, and what exactly am I going to do with it if I get it? I stood down at the bottom of the tree shouting and barking at the cat that was safely up it. I could hear something crashing through the brush towards me, so I kept barking and waiting. I was pretty sure it was Dad coming to see what all the noise I was making was about. He came puffing up to the tree and looked up, trying to see what I knew was there. Molly, what are you doing? He kept looking, but because it was dark, he couldn't see. He didn't have his flashlight. Finally, he pet my head and turned to walk away. Come on, Molly, let's go back to the house, and in the morning we will come back and we'll look for tracks. Boy, I really didn't want to leave the biggest cat I had ever seen alone in this tree, but I went back with him to the house. When we got back to the house, Mom and Joe were waiting for us before we all went in. In the morning, we took a walk back to the tree with Mom and Joe along, and I could tell the cat was gone. The only tracks we could find were mine mixed with the other animal, and Dad couldn't decide what it was. A mystery for another day. Not much exciting happened for a long time after that. It is slowly getting warmer out, and my winter fur is starting to fall out. That makes me very itchy, and I like to roll in the short, tiny green grass starting to grow. The earth smells fresh and clean, and it is beginning to feel warm on my paws as I walk. Today, I trotted down to the cow pasture just to see how things are down there. Little Cow is walking around and eating, but she isn't very small anymore. She is almost as tall as I remember Cow being before she left. I think I'll just sit in the warm sun by the barn. I can hear the birds singing, and some bugs are starting to make their spring sounds too. As I sit looking around, I can hear little tiny mewing in the hay behind me. Did Mom Cat have her babies already? I get up and walk, trying to locate the nest, and sure enough, I can hear them in the back of the hay pile, way up on the top. Molly, it's time to come home now. Where are you? I started to run to the house where Joe was calling. As I ran past the chicken coop, the chickens were running around in circles, squawking and flapping their wings. The rooster was hopping up and down, making such a racket. Some other bird was making a whistling noise as well. I could see an odd-colored chicken sitting in a giant heap. But the trouble was, I didn't recognize that strange chicken. Then I realized it was a hawk, holding one of my hens down and possibly getting ready to fly off with her. I thought to myself as I started to gain more speed to charge the hawk, why isn't the rooster doing something to help the hen? I then realized the rooster was afraid, and he wasn't going to do anything more than hop up and down and make a lot of noise. I glanced at the house and I realized I was going to be the only one to save this hen. Dad nor Mom were going to get there fast enough, and the rooster was no help at all. It was up to me and me alone to help her. I raced past the rooster and I ran right into the hawk, knocking it off the hen. The hen took off with the rooster, running towards the safety of the coop, while the hawk and I rolled over the grass, coming to a halt under the raspberry bushes next to the front door of the house. It separated itself from me, jumped into the air, and flew into the tree that towers over the roof of the house. I could see it sitting there staring at me. I stared up at it and barked as loud as I could. "You're not going to get my chicken today, bird. This is my yard, and they are under my protection, so you better leave them alone." At that point, Dad, Mom, and Joe were standing by me, staring up at the hawk. Dad had a pointed shovel in his hands, and Joe was jumping up and down. Mom reached down to pet me where I stood to rest beside her legs. My sides were hurting from where I had collided with the hawk, but I knew they'd stop. I have a farm, my family, chickens, and even a rooster to protect from danger. My name is Molly, and I am a farm dog with a job to do. That's where we leave Molly. I think all along Molly had courage. She didn't have self-confidence. But she got it when she needed it, and she's going to be just fine taking care of her job from now on. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share it if you'd like. Subscribe. And come back and visit me again. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.